Well, it's afternoon. It's 12:20 in the afternoon. That's p.m. It's Sunday. It's April 15th. I had a little audio this morning. I'm still working on posting it online. The temperature interior is now at 63.5 degrees Fahrenheit. It's the year 2012. This is Inta Mitterbach. This is one of my voices. It's not very well done, and sometimes it has variations, sometimes intentional, not always, sometimes rather more consistent, and sometimes less. I'm in Lakewood, Ohio, which is a suburb west of Cleveland. And we've got lots and lots of issues, but it is Sunday, and this morning's broadcast, or audio rather, was about, well, it was about three things. Astronomy, a bit about astronomy, one of my interests, a bit about insects and spiders. Well, I don't know if I covered spiders, but it was a bit about insects and that interest. I also talked a bit about photography and the difficulties, and what else did I talk? The church. It's Sunday, and I talked about churches and religions. And I was just, well, it's 12 o'clock, and I'm still trying to get outside and do that yard work because I have a new directive. My directive, as proclaimed by the city of Lakewood, is to remove all the weeds. And that's keeping me very, very busy. I have to get a job. Do you know, I spent years, I had a divorce from my second marriage. And it was so difficult getting through all that and other things. So, what was the point? Marriage, divorce. Oh, school. Then I went to school. I worked lots of jobs. Sometimes I worked as many as 5 jobs trying to pay my bills. And the attorney. And at one point, I was working 5 jobs trying to pay my bills. And what's the point about this? Oh, by about the year 2002, I finally made it to NASA to work, which was one of my dreams. I was there 6 months as a volunteer and 6 months as an employee to a subcontractor. So I was there for a year. It didn't work out. It pissed me off. I was very sad and cried quite a bit about it. It wasn't the dream that I thought it would be, but it had good parts and bad parts. Maybe I'll talk about that some other time. But, so, what have we got? Oh, then when I left NASA, I went to school. And that was in 2003. June of 2003 was the last of it. And I think even in 2002 I was going to school. But it was time to drop everything and go to school full time, of which I have been since 2002 for the past 10 years. So, anyway, working on school. I got an Associate of Science, Physics and Astronomy, a Bachelor of Arts in Geography, and a Master's of Business. Now, what's the point about all of this? Why did one of the jobs. Was that what it was? One of the jobs I had was working at the United Church of Christ at the headquarters in downtown Cleveland, Ohio. And that too had bad points and good points. There were some things I was a bit surprised about, and they fired me as well. You know, I had always been an excellent employee. Maybe not as excellent as I should have, because maybe I did what I was told too often instead of using my brain. But, anyway, I don't know what you're supposed to do. I've been a secretary most of my life. Are you supposed to do what you're told to do, or are you supposed to do what's right? I think you're supposed to do what's right, but it's difficult to know that and know that you're supposed to. Anyway, there are more problems. But Sandra Rooney, can I say Sandra Rooney? She was my boss. My boss at the United Church of Christ. And she retired. She interviewed me, and we had a good interview, and I really loved Sandra Rooney. I loved working for her. She was a bit older. Am I allowed to say that? She was a bit older, and she retired after I was there for 3 or 4 months. And I learned a lot from Sandra, and I learned a lot working at the United Church of Christ. I learned about corruption, which is very distressing. I don't know if they were just giving me a corruption model or if they were actually corrupt in some ways. But I kept trying to do the right thing, and after I had learned what I needed to sufficiently, they said, "Off with you! This isn't working out." But I think I learned enough while I was there. I think they're probably good people and probably put on a good show for me. But Sandra, she retired. She retired after 3 or 4 months, and while I was there, I worked. She was what was she? I think she was the manager, somewhat like a division manager, Wider Church Ministries, Mission, Education, and Interpretation. And she followed all the activities of the missionaries and the missionary work of the United Church of Christ, which was very interesting and contributed to my interest in and of geography, because she spent much of her time, if not all of her time, corresponding with the missionaries and educating the church throughout not only the United States but around the world about the missionary work and the missionaries that were all over the world working to spread the word of God and the work of the United Church of Christ. And she was wonderful, and she taught me so much, and I was just having a moment thinking about her, and I thought I'd create another little audio, just kind of in memory of my work at the United Church of Christ, working for Sandra Rooney. She was truly a wonderful person. I cannot say anything but wonderful things about her. And she, like I said, she taught me a lot. They had a missionary calendar, and they followed the work of the missionary, and she put together the missionary calendar and all of the activities that were incorporated in the notes and the photos, and there was work that I helped her with, putting together boards, what were they called? Like, not poster boards and not billboards, but display boards. Putting together display boards to send to the churches so that they could show the people of the church what type of work the missionaries were doing for the church. And so I was able, they let me help with that. And it's funny, it's United Church of Christ, and I don't belong to the United Church of Christ in terms of religion. At the time, I was a member of a Presbyterian church and trying to do that and be a good Presbyterian. And so there was that. What can I say? What else can I say? My work at the United Church of Christ. Missionary. Oh, there was a map. There was a map of the world, and I'm sorry to say I'm not going to remember what it was called. It was a specific type of what is called a projection. And a projection is a different, in geography, a projection with regard to maps. There are different views of maps, and the maps will appear differently depending on where the horizontal and vertical lines are, the latitude and longitude, whether or not the maps are shown in a spherical diagram or a circular diagram or more of a oval-shaped diagram of the Earth or a flat projection of the Earth. And this particular diagram of the Earth, the map projection that they used, was what they said a more true representation of the Earth and the size of the continents, the land areas. And I looked at that and I was like, oh my gosh, the United States is so small on our maps that we're accustomed to looking at. And me living here in the United States, I always felt that the United States was the biggest thing in the world. And when I looked at that, what was the name of that projection? When I looked at that, I thought, oh, the United States is tiny, and look how big the rest of the world is, particularly Africa. I had never really looked at Africa and how huge it is. And, you know, if you think about the individual countries, maybe there's a difference in size. But I guess I looked, I don't know, maybe I looked at North America and thought that's the United States, just kind of expanded the borders there and just looked at it as a whole. But, you know, if you look at the United States on a map, you see that great big country of the United States. But if you put it in a different perspective and you look at it as part of the map of the world, it's not as big. And if you look at, is it the mercantile projection? Was that the one? I don't remember. There was that it? I'm not sure, but there are different projections. And so when you look at the projection that the United Church of Christ uses to show the diagram or illustration of the earth and where everything is, the United States looked tiny to me, and it got me interested in maps and cartography, and later I went to school and got interested in geography, and so my academic life has been a bit I don't know, it's been different. It's probably not very traditional, and I think typically people have a concentration that they follow throughout their academic career. Maybe I'm wrong, you know, I'm not sure. But mine's kind of, I don't know, mine seems different to me. I'm not familiar with anyone else. I don't personally know anyone else that has I guess a trail, an academic trail that is as unfocused as mine seems to be. But what else can I say about the map? The map. Oh, one other thing that was kind of interesting about the United Church of Christ is that it was my understanding when I worked there, believe in a world without borders, where people can cross borders, where the borders don't exist. And I gave that some thought, and I thought about, you know, do we have doors on our homes? Could you take the doors off your homes? And is that what it would be comparable to? Is the United States our home? Are we going to take the doors off our homes? What would that be comparable to? A world without borders. And I'm not sure I understood exactly what they meant by a world without borders. There are different types of borders. There are political borders. There are I don't know. I can't think of any, but I know that there are different types of borders. There are physical borders in terms of geographic land formations, and so anyway, there's all of that. But a world without borders, I think they meant in terms of passage from one area to another, and whether or not that passage would be allowed, whether or not people could move freely about the world without being restricted by borders, as has been done in Europe, where the borders came down. They aren't gone, but people are allowed to pass from country to country. And one of the things that I wanted to do, or I was curious, I really did want to do it, and I was trying to think about how you actually can do it, is whether or not you could travel. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio of the United States, and I was trying to figure out if I could get in my car or walk from Cleveland down to Patagonia, which is in the southern tip of South America. And you would have to pass through, oh, there's the phone, of course. I'm not going to answer that. Well, maybe I should. Hold on. Well, maybe I'll come back. Let me get this, and I'll stop the recording, and then maybe I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. It is, I just had a phone call that I took, and I wanted to double check on the term that I had used for the map projection that I was talking about, and it's not a mercantile. I think I said mercantile. It's a Mercator projection. And a Mercator projection is where all latitudinal and longitudinal lines are drawn straight across. And I'm not sure if that was exactly what the projection was, but it was a different look at a map. It was a type of projection that I had never seen before, and it made what the Earth looked like in terms of land masses very different from what I thought it looked like. Anyway, it was a different, which one is distorted? Is the globe distorted, or is the flat picture distorted? Anyway, different ways to look at the Earth for different reasons. But what I was talking about was basically the way the United Church of Christ looked at the world. And it was my understanding that they wanted to have a world without borders, of which I think Europe has very well demonstrated a good model of a world without borders by opening the borders to Europe through the, the European Union. And the Latin America, I was trying to figure out whether or not I could drive from Cleveland down to Patagonia, and Patagonia is down on the southern tip of South America. And I started thinking about all the borders and all the conflicts that have occurred and whether or not I know what the political situations are. Do we have any conflict areas between here and the southern tip of South America? I've always grown up hearing about the nightmare of Colombia, and I've been deathly afraid of Colombia and some of the other places throughout Central and South America. And this is really, really, really ignorant. I've always considered myself to be very well educated and around affluent people. I wasn't the best academically, and I didn't do a lot of reading. I guess I watched television, glanced at the newspapers and the magazines, and this is absolutely amazing. This is like so primitive Neanderthal, it's not funny. I really, truly, after seeing what I've been exposed to on television and thinking that that was the real world and that what they were showing, why don't you see anything from here? I haven't seen anything about the rest of the world except, in terms of news and everything. The only thing I've seen of the rest of the world is basically Hollywood. I have not seen the news, and I don't know what the conflicts are and what's going on. So the representation that I was given without any news about the world was that basically Mexico was nothing but a bunch of Mexicans running around on horseback, shooting guns and tumbleweeds, and please don't fall out of your chair laughing. When I found out there was a helicopter in Mexico, I almost died. Oh my God, they have helicopters in Mexico. And then later I found out, this was when I was taking geography at the University of Akron. I found out, and that was Dr. Barrett. There was Dr. Barrett, Mr. Dr. Barrett, and Mrs. Dr. Barrett. And Mr. Dr. Barrett, he gave us a class on the geography of Latin America, and I got a lot of information about his primary interest was botany and stuff, but so we got a lot of information about vegetation, and it wasn't. I wanted to know more about the big cities. What's out there? Where's the nightlife in the big cities and economics and all that? Anyway, Mexico City is one of the biggest. I think it's like the third biggest. It may be the biggest in terms of sprawl city in the world. And so anyway, I was completely ignorant. Had no idea. I've heard no news of the outside world during my entire life, with the exception of maybe a couple stories about the pandas, the new baby pandas at the zoo in Tokyo or something like that. And so I'm completely clueless, and the United Church of Christ had anyway, I was trying to figure out, can you drive from Cleveland down to Patagonia, the southern tip of South America, and what do you have to think about? The borders, the visa. I found out you have to have visas and passports. I didn't have to have a passport to go from Texas across the border into Mexico when I was there back in 1996, but I just had to show them my driver's license, and then I found out you have to have visas for some. Passports. Okay, all right. Well, that sounds like that sounds kind of normal. You don't have to have passports in Europe now to cross the borders, but Okay, so you need passports. I guess now we need a passport to get to Canada, of which that border was always pretty open and I mean, you could always just, drive no problem to and from Canada, I thought. And but so you need passports for the countries in Latin America to cross from border to border, country to country. And then I found out you had to have visas, and I was like, you're kidding. I thought visas was something like that you had to apply to visit, because there's this great big ominous place. Like when I was 10 years old, and I'm now 48 years old, when I was 10 years old, to me having a visa meant you had to have like special permission for them to allow you to come into the country, and or to allow you to come into the country, and that visas, it was like a special request that they're going to let you come and visit. And we had to have visas for the Soviet Union when I went there to visit my grandfather in Latvia with my mother and my grandmother. So and that was back around when was it? I think it was around 1972. So I'm not sure I knew exactly what a visa or a passport was, but that's the impression that I had. And I was really kind of surprised that, in the year 2010, 2012, it's now 2012, and I'll reiterate right now, it's Sunday, April 15th, it's 1:30 p.m., and this is will be a recording. I'm recording. But, so anyway, I was just really kind of surprised that you have to have, in the 21st century, that you actually have to have visas. And, then I found out that, like, my dad's cousin, he remarried late in life, and his wife, I think her name was Esther, she had children, of which one had a property in Colombia, and kind of like a vacation home in Colombia, and I'm trying to figure this out. Now, Colombia is this bad place you can't go to, and people have vacation homes there, and then there's like all kind. I guess I've had no exposure to Latin America during my lifetime. I did a paper on Bolivia, and learned about the capital of La Paz and the high altitudes when I was. I did a report on Bolivia when I was we had to do research papers and present them to the class when I was a kid. And so I did a research paper on Bolivia, and La Paz was the capital city. And I think I was probably, 8, 9, 10 years old, probably 8 years old when I did that and learned about Bolivia. Anyway, I'm kind of surprised. That was something. Well, back to Sandra Rooney and the United Church of Christ, and I was talking about trying to cross borders. Can you drive there? Am I going to have to walk and hike? And does my car have to have like special modifications to be able to travel in climates that the cars here aren't accustomed to, and things like that? And then you think about emergency road service. I went to AAA and tried to get a triptych for from here to Patagonia. And they didn't have a triptych. If anyone knows what that is, it's like they'll map out a route for you. Well, their triptychs, I think, are only good for the United States, and so I want my triptych to take me down to Patagonia. I want to look at the sea or the ocean or whatever's down there on the tip of South America. Oh, what the heck is that? And so there's your geography major, my degree in geography. What's the body of water at the base of the southern tip of South America? So, anyway. So I've been trying to figure that out, and I was having nice thoughts and memories about Sandra Rooney at the United Church of Christ today. I learned a lot there. It didn't work out. And please, dear God, though I'm an atheist at this point, I do believe, and I have been an agnostic, and for a short time I actually did believe that I believed in God, which was kind of a nice thing, but dear God, please tell me that your lessons in corruption were merely a model of corruption and not true, real corruption. Because come on, if it really was, please do clean it up. Because there were a couple things going on there that was like, you've got to be kidding. You have got to be kidding. Double dipping into members. Poor
poor members, some of the older members, sending membership fees in 2-3 times and not recalling that they had already sent it in. Those need to be sent back to them. You don't keep that. I think one of your people there didn't know that those should be sent back to them, and that would just be redeposited and kept by the church. No, send those back. And what was the other little issue? The other little issue, they had what was it? Well, there were one of the reasons I kind of had a problem there was because I didn't think that I needed a performance review every week. I was so busy working and trying to do a good job and put things together and get the materials out to the people and provide them with information and make sure that they know about it. I didn't have time for weekly reviews. Sit down and nitpick me and teach me about how I should respect yours, whatever that was, And what was the other thing? What was the other thing? There was one other little thing. The kids. Sponsor a kid. The attitude about the Sponsor a Kid program was a little. I was really startled when my coworker said that the kids they were sponsoring were a bunch of deadbeats. Please tell me that you weren't serious, because, oh my gosh, this is the headquarters of the United Church of Christ. I really don't think if that's really how you feel, and that really truly is a program for the headquarters of the United Church of Christ, you need to get your pink slip, write it out, fill it out yourself, and say, thank you very much, I don't belong here. Because that's I don't think the correct attitude for a sponsorship program for children who are in need around the world, to think that they're just a bunch of deadbeats collecting money. That's not right. And I'm sorry. Please, like I said, dear God, please tell me that was just a model of corruption and bad judgment, of which, if that's true, clean it up or do something, because that's not okay. I was very proud to be working at the United Church of Christ headquarters. That's a really big deal. There was a real serious tragedy when I worked there. That's where I was when 9/11 hit. And I still, 9/11 was a major serious thing, and 9/11 was... 9/11. It is so, to me it's so unbelievable. I just can't even believe that happened. But when it did, and it hit the television and the news and everything, I was working at the United Church of Christ. And there was a lot of communication going on with leaders around the world, mostly religious leaders, political leaders, between my boss and who was my boss? My boss, after Sandra Rooney retired, then I think her name was Jan Airy, and Jan Airy, she became the, Director of Mission Education and Interpretation for Wider Church Ministries, and she was corresponding with these leaders around the world, of which were world leaders in the church and in in a political capacity, the leaders of the world, and very, very serious things, serious communications going on. I don't know if any of that communication was ever released to the public. But that was a major thing, and but Jan Airy and I didn't work out. She decided, I think, that she wanted someone else, and that I wasn't the choice for the job, and that's okay. It turned out okay. It's been a growth experience for me, and but I really didn't need a weekly performance reviews, and that was kind of one of my pet peeve issues there also with Jan. But so anyway. In terms of job, what are they called? I'm looking for a job, and I'm never going to get one with this kind of disclosure. But in terms of what are they called? Interviews. In terms of job interviews, yeah, that's because I was raised by a band of wild animals or wild wolves or something. I don't have a strong command of the language, but that's not true. But it is somewhat true, because I don't have a strong command of the language, but I try. But what I was going to say. I've lost my thought here. So anyway, in terms of interviews and looking for a job, you know, if everyone wonders about sitting down and what do you say, you know, they ask you what happened. What happened at that job? Well, did you want to know? What happened at United Church of Christ? Why am I not still there? Well, they said it didn't work out. And one thing I did learn is that if you work for a church organization, they are an organization for which in the United States you will not receive unemployment benefits when they fire you. So that was kind of a learning lesson. And so I think I've been fired from almost every job I've had since I've been back in Cleveland. But anyway, happy Sunday. This is just going on and on and on, and I'm going to close this out. Sandra Rooney, if you're still out there, I know you retired, what, 10 years ago? And I still think about you. I have good memories of you, and I think the work you were doing was very valuable, very important, and you did a great job. And I learned a tremendous amount, and you were a good example as a boss and someone as a representative of the church. And thank you very much. And everyone have a great day. It's Sunday, April 15th. It's now 1:40 p.m. The interior temperature is 64.4 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm in Lakewood, Ohio, the United States, and my name is Inta Mitterbach. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. It's me again. It is now 1:56 p.m. And there's probably not a break between recordings as you're hearing this, but there has been a break in time. I just wanted to come back. This is going to be a collection that looks at 3 recordings now, something new. I just wanted to come back and say one last thing, because, you know, I'm supposed to have a bachelor's degree in geography, and I'm not an expert. I really am not. I would like to say that I am, but I know that I'm not. But with regard to the whatever sea or ocean is at the bottom of South America, where Patagonia is located, which is actually an area, or not a region, but I think it's an area. I don't know that it's necessarily maybe it's a region, but the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean are on either side of Latin America, which of course most people know, and I know that. But what I was curious about is the water body below the tip of South America, and it looks like that is probably the Scotia Sea, though it's not necessarily. There's islands down there. There's the Falkland Islands and the Scotia Sea. I'm looking at an atlas right now, and the an atlas and specifically of South America. There's the Scotia Sea is down there, but just below at the base, the most southern point of South America is Cape Horn. I don't know if anyone has ever heard of Cape Horn. My grandfather had traveled, I think maybe by ship. I don't know the whole story, but my grandfather a long time ago, and he's no longer living, but he traveled, I think, to the Falkland Islands, and I don't know what the story is on that. But Cape Horn is at the very southern tip of, maybe not the tip, but the southern part of South America. And the Drake Passage is down there. And then before you get to Antarctica, which is at the very southernmost part of the Earth, according to the compass and the maps, there is something called the South Shetland Islands, which might be interesting to look at some point. But so anyway, I think there's something called the Drake Passage down there. I'd like to go down to Cape Horn and take a look at Drake Passage, and I'd like to figure out whether or not I can drive there. Well, and one else, there's so many tangents to go off here, but I was curious about the transportation systems, highway systems, and Santiago, Chile is a beautiful place, according to a video that I saw, and It was much more modern and progressive than I thought. And there is a Geographia, like a National Geographia de Chile place, which is not the Spanish pronunciation, but there's like the National Geography, Geographic something of Chile. I did a paper. Gosh, I was such a great student. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have the paper right in front of me, but I did the National Institute of Geography for Chile, maybe it was. I did a paper on, and I have to go to prison for life because I borrowed a picture of the National Institute of Geography of Chile for my paper. But anyway, that's down there. Oh, maybe it's the Military Institute of Geography, and it's open to the public. You can go there and visit it and take a tour. And so I'm trying to figure out what's the big problem. Why can't we just drive down? You know, maybe it's all just a story. Maybe we don't need passports and visas to get through all of Latin America. Maybe it's just part of the illusion that I have in having been closed off from the world. Anyway, it all looks like, it would be wonderful to travel to all these places. Some people can't travel for whatever reason, which is probably unfortunate. Some people don't want to, but I kind of did, and so I wondered. But anyway, have a great day, everyone. It's now 2:01 p.m. And I've got another 5 minutes here for you. I just, everyone thought I was so quiet. It's amazing how much I can talk. Nobody can shut me up. So, have a great day. It's Sunday. It's, as I said a million times already, it's Sunday, April 15th, 2012. And this is Inta Mitterbach in Lakewood, Ohio, again saying thank you and have a great day.